And really, it's still surrounding work. I've had these ongoing things going on with my job, and I've had things going on in my last few jobs. But, this is the most recent one. And I've mentioned this before that I was talking to a coworker about this most current thing going on. So I'm explaining to them everything that's happening at the job. And they're like, wow, they're doing you dirty. They're doing you wrong. It was understood, like, I gave all the facts. This is what's happening. And that person agreed. This is not right. But then when they were giving me suggestions on how I should respond to said wrongs that were going on, the suggestions were like, dress up like this, spin it like this, say it like this, because you don't want to be known as the angry black man. That was literally what was said. And I've heard that before. I've heard that before many times over the years. And I did dress things up, or I did say, let me just put my head down and just keep going through the mud. Or I did say, let me be really fluffy with the way that I am expressing this problem, because I don't want to be known as that person who is just confrontational. All right. I was sitting down today and I was thinking about my life, because in the last, I want to say 5 to 6 years, I have not at all been opposed or afraid to be that person. And it's not even like I'm making an attempt to be confrontational. To me, confrontational people are people that go looking for the confrontation. Like, there's nothing going on, there's nothing really there. They make something up, they invent one. But anybody who knows me in any kind of a way knows that I'm actually conflict averse. There's so many things that I let go of in an average day. As a matter of fact, I let go of too many things, to the point where when I start addressing them, it looks more confrontational, because I don't usually create conflicts, or I don't usually even speak up in certain things that I don't think are important enough for me to address them. But like I said, they can kind of pile up when you do that. But I was advocating for myself again at work, and I remember there was a time when, for me to even consider advocating for myself, I had to build myself up to do it. I had to be like, oh boy, I'm scared to talk to the boss. I'm scared to say something. I'm scared to put myself out there and possibly risk losing something, or getting in trouble, or getting written up, or just being the person who stands out. I was always worried about that. But now I'm not worried about it at all, because I think about one thing. Would I rather be known as the person who is calm, quiet, agreeable, and you can do whatever? Or would I rather be known as the person who, if you try to do something to me that is wrong, I'm always going to say something? Because you know what? There are some things that you just can't avoid, because some people are just line crossers and boundary pushers. There's just nothing you can do about it. But I'll tell you one thing. If they know that you're going to kick up dust when they cross the line or push the boundary, they are less likely to come to you, because they know every time I do this, it's going to be a problem. The problems that I'm facing now in my work setting, in my past life, and I don't mean like past life, but I mean in a previous chapter in my life, I would have addressed it differently, and they would be doing even more than they're doing now. They're only doing as much as they're doing now because they're treading lightly as possible. They're still pushing it, but they're not doing what they would be doing if they could do exactly what they wanted to do and how they're going to do it. So I don't have a fear of speaking up when the alternative of speaking up is getting pushed around. I lost a friend for giving light pushback on nonsense. Good for you for speaking up. Yeah, so I like those friends. I always think to myself, sometimes when you lose friends for giving pushback on things, you realize, was that person really my friend? Because you're like, okay, you did something that I didn't like. I mean, I don't know your exact situation because that was pretty generic, but you did something that I don't like, and I let you know that I didn't like that. And then you're like, oh, you're not my friend anymore. Okay. I remember those kind of things. I would backtrack. I used to backtrack. Friend was going on and on about authoritarianism and how he likes it. I simply asked him to elaborate. The reason why I'm laughing at that is not just because of what you said, but because I was thinking of this work meeting that I had, which is still on the topic that I had. And I had a list of questions because they were making a big change in my job. We're adding this responsibility, we're doing this, we're expanding this. So I had a list of questions because this is not my first go around. I have close to a 20-year work history at this point. So I was like, okay, how is this gonna work? I have questions about this, I have questions about that. And then the supervisor ended up telling me to stop being a negative person. I was like, are you serious? A negative person because I have questions about upcoming changes and things that I foresaw coming. And those things are actually happening now. They gave me all these reassurances. Oh, it's not going to go like how you're saying it's going. This is going to happen, and we're going to do this to ensure that doesn't happen, and this and that. And I'm just watching it play out the exact way that I said it was going to play out. So no, it wasn't being a negative person. It was being a realistic person. And I'm very realistic. He was complaining to me. You know what? I also have friends. I've had friends in the past who always complain about what everybody else is doing to them. It's always the friend. They're never the problem. The friend is always the problem. And I'm like, wow, life is rough for you. You treat everybody good. You never do anything wrong. And people just leave you and do you dirty. I love those ones. Actually, I do have a couple in mind, but I mean, they probably don't even watch my YouTube. But I always think to myself, I wonder if these people that I'm talking about one day would just pull up my YouTube and be able to look at it and know who I'm referring to. Some of them would. Some of them are so narcissistic that they would probably think that I'm talking about somebody else anyways. I had to listen to this fool cry about how he lost his incel friend because that friend of his was aggressive towards him and started hating on women. That sounds like quite a story. That sounds like quite a story. So yeah, there's this thing in psychology called an if-then scenario. It's one of the first things that I learned when I went to a behavioral health specialist and they were trying to help me through panic attacks. and it's something that I apply. It's called an if then, or sometimes it's called a what if scenario. So yeah, it was something that the therapist used to help me get over panic attacks. So what it was that the therapist would ask me, what is causing the panic attack? What is triggering it? I might not have an answer to that. And then it was just like, let's play this out. What is the worst thing that you see happening when you have this panic attack? And I'm like, well, when I have the panic attack, I feel like I'm gonna die. And then the therapist was like, how many panic attacks have you had? I'm like, several of them. And how many times have you died from the panic attack? I was like, well, none, obviously. So it was just kind of a fast forwarding it in your head and bringing some reality to a situation. So my connection of that to what I'm saying in this case is like, if somebody pushes a boundary or does something wrong to you, what is the worst thing that can come out of you saying something? I think that Van Hoot, you just alluded to that. In like a personal setting, the worst thing that can happen is they get angry with you and they're like, I don't want to be your friend, or I don't want to talk to you. In a work setting, well, maybe you might have some contention, because that's what's happening to me. You might have some contention with the person that you're calling out for that, but the other side of the coin is that they're going to keep doing it. I'm learning that people don't know how to socialize. Wait, where are we here? Oh, they tend to dump on others as an emotional punching bag. That's for sure. That's for sure. Especially like in real life, but even more so online. It's worse online. Work is more challenging. It is because there are nuances to it that sometimes do require you to be tactical with how you say things, but I think you can be tactical, but you can still be forceful in a way. And that's what I have kind of learned in recent years. I keep saying this: write everything down, send out emails, send out follow-up emails, make sure that the call out is public, there's multiple people there, and it's in writing. Yeah, and then, if you have someone you trust, which I have people that I do trust, have them double check it, look at it for you from an outside perspective to make sure that it is still professional and it's not too much on the personal side, which it could be used against you, which I've had that happen to me before. Because I got mad at a manager before, and I had it in writing. I had certain things in writing that I said as a response to what was said to me, but it was used against me. So I felt that way before. I even feel that way recently about feeling relieved about people who jumped ship when I set boundaries. Like, it's a relief, because conforming to whatever it is that they were doing is worse than them not being there. People don't always realize that. Like, your absence is a relief, not something I'm sad about. Yeah, the documentation is very key. The documentation is key, and then also something that I learned is that when somebody triggers you in a moment, well, I can't say this is true for everybody, but what's true for me is that when somebody triggers you in a moment, don't answer in that same moment. Take some time. Take some time to cool off, and take some time to map out the way that you are going to answer. Because there's nothing worse than just a quick response. And then you're like, shoot, I can never take that back, personally or professionally. And I've said this before, but that was not me before. I was a quick responder for a big portion of my life. And I remember not too many times in a professional setting, still plenty of times, but way more times in my personal life. And then I remember there was this one particular person who I got mad at for something that I don't think I was really justified in really being mad at. I know, like, emotions are emotions, but it was something that when I thought back to it, I didn't have any logical reasons to react the way that I did. Matter of fact, I was in a way the boundary pusher in that case, that somebody was setting a boundary with me. And I got upset, and then later on I was like, oh man, I feel really stupid, because if I had thought some more before I responded, I would never have responded that way. And I would still have that friendship. So I ended up being embarrassed to even apologize for a while. And then, like, months later, we didn't even speak for months. And then months later, I ended up, like, apologizing and being like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have reacted that way, etc. And they forgave me. We moved on. Yeah, it is what it is. We moved on. But that particular person was the one where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of apologizing, because I used to apologize to people all the time because I would say things that I don't mean. So that's like a after product of those days. An after product of those days for me is that now I don't say things that I don't mean. That doesn't mean that I'm never wrong, but it does mean that I think before I say things. So if I said it, I meant it at that time. Could my mind be changed through later conversation? Absolutely. I'm human, but I meant it when I said it. My sister told me to write things down in a draft. You know what? I don't necessarily always do it just like that, but I do write things down now. Like, when I get into these meetings, well, I know I do it for work. When I get into work meetings, I always have a lot written down nowadays. But even sometimes when I know that I'm going to have a really serious personal conversation with somebody, I take time to think about what I'm going to say. And sometimes I do write it down and I read it over and I'm like, okay, the message that I'm trying to get across, is this going to get that message across? Or is this going to sound abrasive? Is it going to be taken the wrong way? You know? Because somebody said to me one time, I wish I could remember it exactly how they said it, but it was some kind of analogy about a boiling pot, and then the boiling pot is interacting with the other pot, and the other pot starts boiling, and now you're both cooking. That's probably not exactly how the analogy went. I just know that was the ending. Now you're both cooking. But basically it was just like, if you approach the conversation in an aggressive, angry way, then the person is not really going to hear the problem that you're complaining about. They're just going to hear the tone and the delivery. And then they're going to get angry and defensive about that. And then you're not even going to talk about the issue, and you're just going to walk away both angry and nothing resolved. Hi, Lisa. I forgot to mention something that I won't, but I saw some funny stuff. Good that you are setting boundaries. Writing down it's such a great idea. You know, people don't realize how significant taking yourself out of a moment can be. I remember the first time I really practiced this after a therapist suggested it to me. I had this time that I was furious about something, like 11, 12 out of 10 furious, hot, where if I had responded right then, it would have been crazy. So I remember my therapist suggesting to me at that time, when you're in those moments, if you can, like, get outside and take a walk, maybe throw on some music and walk around. She told me to walk around my park, because I have like a park by my house. Walk around the park for 30 minutes, play the music. If you have to, call somebody, vent, whatever you have to do. And then come back to the issue when you're finished that walk. So I remember I was like, I'm gonna do this, but I don't think this is gonna benefit me. So I got up, I started walking around, I took some laps. I came back and I sat down and I was like, okay, let me think about this. And I was actually able to think. I was still mad, but I said I was at a 12 out of 10 when I left the house. When I got back, I was like a 6 or a 7. And some people at a 6 or a 7 are still explosive, but I have to be at a 10 plus before I'm going to be like that. So it took me down enough that I could actually think a little bit better. And I was like, you know what? I was really mad in the moment, but it wasn't quite as serious as I thought it was. It still was enough to make me mad, but I think this particular one was a buildup of things that were done over a course of time that brought me to that level. Don't put it in a draft. You know what's funny? Well, I say there's exceptions to every rule. So somebody said something crazy to me. Supervisor said something crazy to me via email. And all the upper management was CC'd on the email. We had like a back and forth exchange. And then the exchange ended with the clinical director responding, reply all, that they agree with what my supervisor had said, and I need to learn how to conform. When I saw that word, like conform, like you need to learn how to conform, there was a lot behind that. So I was all kinds of mad. And I did a reply all that I don't regret. That's the difficulty with arguing or talking via text. People spit things out in the moment that they usually wouldn't have ever said in person. Yeah, that's true. Oh, I remember I actually had somebody who, me and them got along extremely well in person. Like, we never even had a fight in person. But we both, for some reason, I don't know why, but we couldn't get along via text. We just couldn't get along. In person, or if we had a phone conversation, never had an argument. But just the text message thing, so we literally had to make a verbal contract. Okay, if we're texting, it's only going to be for casual topics, whatever, small updates. Anything serious or anything like deep, it's like, okay, let me know. The text is just let me know your availability to have this discussion about such and such. And then we would just not text until we have that conversation. It was like that. Text can be really, really misunderstood. And if it fails, it gives you a time to be lazy, to respond in a silly manner. And then people do these passive aggressive things on text messages where it's just like, you suck, LOL. I hate your guts, LOL. Like passive aggressive statements that they actually really mean. And then if you're like, that was messed up to say to me, they're like, oh, you're too sensitive. I was joking. Like, that was a joke. No, it wasn't a joke. I know the art form of expressing feelings in joke form. I know that art form. I popularized it at one point, but now I'm too old for that. I appreciate your conversations because it uses a lot of these forms. MCAT prep, conformity, compliance, groupthink, etc. All those things happen at work. I just thought it was a crazy thing for somebody to tell me that I need to learn how to conform. So what was happening was that it was the same kind of thing as what's happening in my job now in a way. It was like they gave us some crazy heightened expectation with no extra money. And it's like, you have to do this. And it was almost like, and it was so radically different from my hire interview, and my expectations given to me on paper were so different from what they were telling me to do. And I was saying, this doesn't make sense. You're not paying me more. Like, what has changed to make me have to do significantly more work overnight? I gave pushback on that. Like, is there some kind of reward or reason for me to do this? They didn't provide one. And then they just ended it by saying, basically, shut up and dribble. If you know the reference, when that lady told LeBron, shut up and dribble, it was like, just shut up and do the work like everybody else. But again, there was more behind that, but that's a different topic for a different day. I mean, I've talked about the topic before, but I have a friend like that. We are chummy in person, best of buds, but Texas. Yeah, I've had that before. We talked about this the other day. It is a form of manipulation. It is they are able to casually slide in things that they want to say to you in a way that is, like, since you can't hear the verbal cues, it's plausible deniability. That's what one of my coworkers always says about certain things. Plausible deniability. I can always deny what I meant when I said that. You throw some emojis in there, shoot, I actually find myself, it's funny because watching season 5 of The Circle, because I couldn't get through season 6. Netflix The Circle, and I was watching season 5, and then I was watching people talk about Shuby and the way how when he was trying to be a girl, they were talking about his lack of emojis that he was putting in what he was saying, which made it look like he was a guy. And not just that part of it, but just generally, they would be thinking like, the emojis are how we express whether this is supposed to be genuine, funny, flirty, angry, whatever. Because it takes out the nonverbal cues. They say 80% of communication is nonverbal. So how can you read somebody without being able to see them, without being able to hear their voice, body language, facial expression? You just can't really do it. Even somebody like me, I'm great at communication. I think I'm solid at communication. But through text, it's a handicap for everybody. And through, like, even on here, been good, thanks. Could push myself to do more, but been feeling stuck lately. Oh, I know that feeling. I like turning on these lives when I walk, because it forces me, it gives me something to do while I walk when I don't feel motivated to walk. When I feel motivated, I'm actually not on here because I'm running. But I have a race coming up in Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days, and I haven't been running. disappointed in myself about that, but it is what it is. I'm going to finish the race. Whether I finish first or last or anything in between, I have never not finished something that I started. Well, I have never not finished a race when I started a race, specifically. I have too many things that I haven't finished in life. There's another thing I recently found that annoys me. I have a friend, he will try to engage in pretty serious topics but midway through, he will say he's high, like, dude, I don't have time. Hi, Tammy. I'm big on using emojis, but my face actually does those things in real life. I'm pretty authentic. A lot of people say that I'm the only one they know who laughs and cries at the same time. I actually laughed and cried at the same time today. Somebody said something really funny. Actually, I'm gonna say what the person said. It was general. This is a general statement, but we were just talking about how our clients throw us under the bus sometimes to our management, and the management acts like the customer is always right. Like, even when they're dead wrong, they want to protect that dollar bill. So they're going to act like the client is right. So, and sometimes when they get a hold of our supervisors, our managers' numbers, they be saying wild things to them that aren't even true about us, just because they're mad at whatever thing that they wanted and didn't get or whatever. So this person tells me, like, they were like, I tell all my clients, if you have an issue, call 911 before you call my manager, please. I think that you would have to be in my type of field to understand that. Lisa, you might understand that. It's almost like a child complaining, especially nowadays, about something that you did in school to discipline them or something. Like, they did something wrong, then they go home to the parents and they're like, Miss D said so and so. And now you're sitting here explaining yourself about why, justifying why you did this thing to this child. Not saying that children are always wrong, but I am saying in certain professions, the clientele that you're dealing with, you have to know that they are in some way compromised. Just been busy. Yeah, thanks for hopping on. You haven't been on. This must be a break or something, because it's been a while since you've been able to sit on a live this long. I know you always drop in your comments when you can, but it's been a while since you've been on a live like that, like in the topic like that. That has absolutely happened before. I don't have the patience. Exactly. It's so irritating, because you're sitting here like, why am I on trial when you're put in a position where what is what I'm looking for? You get hired into that spot, and you expect that you will be trusted by your management to have the discernment to know how to act in these situations where you're the person in charge. There's nobody else there with you. It's just you and them. So if they do something wrong, you have to act in the moment, or you have to make decisions in that moment. And you would think and hope that the people who employ you would trust you enough to say, I assume that this person made the best decision within that moment. But oftentimes they take the other party's side because they don't want to upset the person who's paying. They don't want to upset the parent. They don't want to upset the client, even in my case, who their Medicaid is actually what's paying for their meetups with me, not them, but they're getting money by having that person on the caseload. But then it's like you're upsetting the person who actually goes out there in the trenches and meets all these angry people who think everything is your fault. Yeah, I don't have the higher ups on my side, so I'm not in a profession where the higher ups take your side. I'm really not. If you are in a spot in my profession where the higher ups take your side, it's the exception. Because now I can say, as a person with more than a decade as a mental health worker, my side is taken like minimally. I've had my side taken in really extreme scenarios where if my side was not taken, I would have been in serious trouble. And I'm grateful for those couple of things. But in the average everyday thing, yeah, they usually kind of, not that I got disciplined, but they would talk to me as if what that person was saying is 100% facts. I've never been disciplined for anything that a client said. They wouldn't go that far because I would see that through to the end. Children do that all the time. They don't get social cues. Yeah, exactly. Busy is good. I think people need to value their own time. The irony. That is so true. I think if I could pin comments, I can. I think people need to value their own time and understand the value of other time. Yeah. Like nothing you do. This is another one that I've said is a form of manipulation. You know those people who say, hey, let me know if you're free. Let me know if you're free before they ask you about something or before they ask you to do something. Have you ever had somebody say, hey, are you free at this time and date? Or like, are you free for this? Or are you free? Like they start off by saying, are you free? And then ask you to do something that you want to do. Like, are you free for me to take you to this concert? Are you free for me to drive you over to Dairy Queen and get some ice cream? Are you free for me to pull up on your house and give you some money? No, it's always something that you don't want to do. So if you're like, yeah, I'm free. I'm going to be moving and I don't have anybody to help me this day and time. Or like, I need this thing, or I need someone to talk to, or I want this, or I need this. It's always some bottom of the barrel thing that you don't want to do. Time is not free. There's nothing free in life, time included. Time is not free. You choose. That's why they call it spending time. You choose what you're doing with your time. At school, parents who say things like, that's your responsibility, you're with them more than I am, are the same ones that say, who do you think you are talking to my child like that? I'm sure it's like that. Yes, Tammy, that is literally the high man for me. Hey, are you free tomorrow to talk about some really in-depth topic and then turn around? Oh, that's what you mean by the high man. I didn't know what you were talking about. That does sound like an interesting friend. You know what? I don't like the friends that the people who just are always good for talking about one topic, and no matter what your topic is, they will find a way to put their topic in there. Like, I don't understand. These people are looking at me because I'm kind of animated right now, but I don't care. I don't understand. Like, let's say that this person likes talking about, I'm not even going to say that topic, but let's just say the person likes talking about turtles. You could be talking about Michael Jordan. You could be talking about, I'm walking down the block. I could be talking about the cars, the grass, the trees, the leaves, and then somehow turtles gets in there, and then they're like mad if you don't want to talk about that. I have a high friend that complains when I don't. I have a That's funny, a hi friend. I was thinking of something else though. Like, one of my friends, like some years ago, was like, you know what? We had a mutual friend, and that friend was like, we ended up talking about that mutual friend because I had an issue with that person. And then my friend was like, yeah, she's a high maintenance friend. I was like, high maintenance friend? What is that? And she was like, well, it's the same thing as like a high maintenance partner. It's like a high maintenance friend. Somebody who always needs and demands things out of you. They need your time. They need you to listen to them, have a listening ear. They need a ride somewhere. Something is messed up in their life that needs fixing, and you have to help them with it. And everything is good if your whole world revolves around their needs. I just let go of a friend that just like this. I let go of a friend that called me a terrible person because they asked me to give them rides to physical therapy. Weekly rides for nothing. Like, I could give you a ride once in a while when available, but I'm not like a transportation company. I'm not locking myself into that. You have to be somebody I'm seeing, or like a family member. You live in my household or something. And even then, I might say I can't do this every single day or every single week, like on a schedule. They told me I was being selfish for saying no. And I was like, you know what? I guess I'm going to be selfish and you're not going to be my friend. And I have not regretted that. I feel the same relief that you were talking about earlier. You know, 40 years? Whoa. Basically, almost your whole life. Yeah, needy. Yeah, that's another word for it. Needy. Needy is a simpler way to describe it. Can you say, I don't know what that is. Can you say nothing? Don't do it. It's too late. It's too late. I give people one. When people come in there and say, "Can you say whatever?" and I've never seen them before, I already know they're trying to get me to say something stupid. Well, go on. We got 30 minutes until the special. I don't know if I'm gonna walk until then, but I just decided to put on the live before the Big Brother special episode. I used to have a lot of friends just like that. And I used to drop everything for those friends. And it used to make me popular with them. When I say popular, I don't mean like popular in a sense of like I have a million friends. But I mean popular in a sense of everyone was always happy with me. Oh, of course you're going to love the person who always has time for you in a jam. Of course you're going to love the person who you're like, bro, I'm running low on money and I need to pay this bill. I need help. Of course you're going to love the person who you're like, I need someone to talk to. Yo, I had a few people who were like, it's such a luxury for me having a friend like you who is a counselor. I would finish work and then I would see this number pop up on my phone. And unfortunately, I would pick the number, I'd pick the phone up, knowing that this person was just going to be whining about their problems. I would listen to them complaining. 2 hours goes by. They get off the phone and they're like, oh, thank you so much. You're a lifesaver. I don't know what I would have done if you hadn't answered the phone, because I didn't have anyone else to talk to. So I lightened their burden and they just put an extra one on me. And I'm like, what did I gain out of that? That only works if it's a give and take. There are people who, if I saw them call right now, even if I felt really stressed, and even if I felt like I wanted to decompress, if I knew they needed me, I would pick the call up and I would just make it work, because I know that they have done so for me. Because you're not always going to be free and clear when you take those calls. But for the people that just take and take and take and never give, not worth it. Block and delete. My no's are no and yes is yes. 90% of the time, I'm good with that. 10% of the time, people catch me, but I'm human all the time. So I've gotten much, much better than I used to be with setting boundaries, but I could always do better. I wish I had learned earlier in life too, because it would have saved me a lot of time. It would have saved me a lot of frustration. It would have made me a lot happier, because you tend to think about what you could potentially lose. This is like looping back to what I was saying originally. You tend to think about the things that you could lose when you set those boundaries, instead of thinking of the things that you gain. Peace, stability, time, you know? There's a whole other spin on what you can get out of removing things that aren't serving you. And you can't always remove things that don't serve you, right? You can definitely limit their ability to bring you down. Before my mom passed away last year, she made me promise to prioritize myself. That's so great that she was able to tell you that. It has allowed me to grieve the way I need to grieve. Grieving is tough. You know, but I'm glad you brought that up, because before losing my dad, I was everything to everybody and nothing to myself, as that phrase goes. I was everything to everybody and nothing to myself. And then I found myself in a space where I was grieving, and people were reaching out to me for me to solve their problems, and it was making me angry. I was like, they left me alone for a little bit. All right, let's leave him alone and let him get through it. And then once he's through it, then we're gonna come back and just be our annoying selves again. So I wasn't given the advice to prioritize myself, but I started to realize so many people are just selfish. I need you to do this much, this often. Otherwise, you suck, you know? And I started to realize that I'm fine with all those people feeling that way. I'm fine with every single one of those people feeling that way, because I don't meet the demands of what they think that I have to do, how much I have to be available for them, etc., etc. Me, myself, and I will be my happy self. Yeah. She gave you a wonderful gift with that advice. I'm gonna need $400. Me too. That's not even a boundary thing. I just don't have it. I don't have $400. Money was not really a big one. That only happened to me once. There was one scenario that money really caught me, but aside from that, I don't give anyone money unless I have the money to give. Their time at the table is not my time. I tell them when they try to box me in. Yeah, and it's like those same people who try to box you in, they're never the people who are doing the same for you or anyone else. They're selfish. Their time, actually, if you were asking them to be available as much as they were asking you, they would probably be upset because they're looking at life through a lens where everything revolves around them. Thanks for contributing, Van Hoop. I have probably 8 minutes until I get back to my house. I'm surprised that I walked this long. I'm glad that I walked this long though, because I really wanted to walk and I hadn't done so in too long. And like I said, I have a race coming up this weekend and a race coming up next weekend. So I know that I'm not going to be so ready as I want to be, but I at least want to get a little bit of cardio in before then. Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to hop off, but thanks for joining me on my walk. I need to try to get my walks in 5 to 6 days a week from here on out. I was doing that for a while. I just hit a little bit of a rough patch. The rough patch is somewhat related to work, but somewhat related to the fact that it's August. August was my dad's birthday month. So it's just hitting me that this is actually my second year of not being here for his birthday. And I have vivid memories of the last birthday that I spent with him, because I remember seeing the condition that he was in at that time and saying to myself, I need to spend this birthday with him because it will probably be the last birthday that I get to spend with him. And indeed it was. I brought my computer over there. I put on some of his old boxing matches that he loved. I brought the phone. I let him video talk. Well, he wasn't really able to talk too much. He could say a word or two, but he knew some of the people that were very close to him that I let him speak to on video call. You know, I brought him, so I have everything on video. I have a hard time looking at those videos, but I still have those videos of that day that I spent with him. So I'm like, second birthday is coming up and that's gonna be hard. That's been on my mind. And then I also think about just in general, I don't have like specific last words that he gave me like that, but it's more like generally he always wanted me to just do things that make me happy. So that's probably a part of why I have been expelling all the things that make me unhappy and feeling unapologetic about that. Whether that is people, whether that is places, whether that is things, all the things that don't make me happy have got to go, period. I found my calling in teaching. That's awesome. Feels like temp here in Jacksonville. I can't with Florida. I can't with hot places generally. Even this kind of heat wave-ish thing that we've been going through. Sorry I'm late, but it's wonderful that you have those memories and tapes of you and your dad. They're invaluable, but I have to admit I still have a hard time looking at them because they kind of just bring me back there in a way. I would like to be able to spend times when I'm actually able to look at them and not feel really sad. But it's a tough one. I haven't even looked at that full video. I've seen little clips. I've seen little clips of that, but I have not actually sat down and watched that in its entirety yet. It's just similarly to when my mom was trying to give me my dad's big bag of clothes, and the bag was just sitting in the living room for months. And the only reason that I ended up taking the clothes was because she was like, I've decided to give these clothes away. I was like, no, I'm not having that. If he was here, he would be flabbergasted that we just took all his nice, expensive African clothes and suits and stuff and just put them in a garbage bag and gave them to the Salvation Army. So I was like, nope, I'm gonna go through all these clothes, take what fits and take what I like before giving away whatever she wanted to give away. Yep. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining me again. And if you follow me for my other content, I'll be back later. They're having a Big Brother special with Taylor, with Jag, and with Cody in about 15 minutes or so, 16 minutes. My dad's been gone for almost 20 years. Like, still can't listen to his sermons. Yeah, I mean, it's tough because for me, if I get too deep into that rabbit hole, it just paralyzes me. I just feel awful if I get too deep into that rabbit hole of just memories. So I can take those memories in small doses. Like, sometimes I can think of things that make me happy or make me motivated, but if I get really, really into a lot of things, then it's just that's where my mind is going to be at for the day. Be nice to give friends and family. Well, those clothes are gone now. I mean, I kept the ones that I kept, and the rest of them are gone. I wish I did have family to give them to, but we did not end up doing that. All right, everybody. Talk to y'all later.